Hello to everyone who may or may not be here. Welcome back to the stream where we play non-violent games, games that reward the player for intellectual and or emotional engagement rather than for combat or any other kind of violent accomplishments. We're back with the Great Ace Attorney today. Hopefully I can maybe do a decent job with Scottish accents today. I don't know. We'll have to see. Because honestly, I kind of doubt it, actually. But I'll give it a shot. So we are, I suppose, gonna be doing the, gonna be starting where last Thursday we were, but where I didn't have any sound. This week I have sound. Gina, how are you holding up? So, oh, whoops. Ginny, are you all right? Why aren't you saying anything? What's the point, eh? What's the point, eh? Why go to all this trouble and fight so hard for the likes of me? What? You saw it? That picture. What picture? Ah, you mean this? The photograph taken by Hurley's red-handed recorder. Well, I didn't think it would have captured a scene like this, that's for sure. It's hopeless. Anyone who sees that's gonna think I did it, ain't they? It's hopeless. Anyone who sees that is gonna think I did it, ain't they? Well, I won't pretend it wasn't a bit of a shock when the prosecution first presented it to the court. Surely you gotta have your doubts about me now. You can't still think I'm innocent. Of course I can. Ginny, why don't you talk to us? Tell us what really happened that night. Eh? Bruno's cleverly managed to piece together a lot of new information, but still, we'd really like to hear it from you. Alright then. It was after we'd had that dinner together at your place, alright, Iris? And then we all had a chat up in your office, didn't we? Yes, I remember. After that, I just couldn't get to sleep, so I slipped out and went down to the street I slipped out and went down the street to the 2-to-1 to Windibank's place. I had to know if Iris's story was there or not. The Hound of the Baskervilles? I don't know what it's about or nothing. No, that was Iris. I don't know what it's about or nothing. But he asked me something in that Sholmes. There's something in that. There's something in it that Sholmes don't like. Something in it that. But if you ask me, there's something in it that Sholmes don't like. Something what he don't want people reading. So that's why he lied to Iris about sticking it in log with Windibanks for safekeeping. At least that's what I thought at the time. So you broke into Windibanks. I just had to know if it was there or not. I mean, I had no idea all that was going to kick off, did I? I struck the lock and snuck inside. It was dark as you like in there. So I gave the oil lamp on the counter a bit away. And that's when... What do you think you're doing? Ah! I nearly died, I did. The next thing I knew, I grabbed the gun off the counter and was waving it all in the air like... I don't know what. Ah, you're the girl who was in here this afternoon. I didn't think pickpockets went in for armed robbery. The mental script. Have you got it here? Did Sholmes leave a load of papers with you? A story. Story? I don't know. I beg your pardon. The end of the something or other. If it's there, I want to see it. Hold on. I have the... If it's... Hold on, let's see. Oi. Robot. Price. The end of the something or other. If it's here, I want to see it. I'm sorry, young lady, but I'd sooner die than relinquish an article belonging to one of my customers. I don't want it. What would I do with it anyway? I just want to see it's here. That's all. Oh, you want to see it, do you? I want to know if Sholmes really pawned it here or not. Please, just let me see it, and I'll go. Oh, very well then. But for pity's sake, stop waving my gun around, would you? Oh, wait, no, sorry, he's not the Scottish one. But for pity's sake, stop waving my gun around, would you? So then the old cove unlocked the storeroom door, and we both went inside. And it was there, alright. The mental script. Sholmes weren't lying after all. You did all that just to check for me, Ginny? Anyway, there was a bit of a kick-up out in the main bit of the shop. The Skulkin brothers arriving on the scene, yes. What was that noise? What was that noise? Someone's breaking in. Dear me, is there some burglars' convention here tonight that I don't know about? I think I forgot to shut the door behind me. Sorry. I'd better go and take care of it. Could I possibly have my gun back? Oh, well, I'll come with you and... No, don't be foolish, young gal. You must stay right here. Don't leave this room under any circumstances. And with that, he took the gun out of my hands and walked back out into the shop. I hung back in the storeroom like he said, straining my ears in the dark to hear what was going on. It sounded like they got into a bit of a scrap. I started to think I should help see. So I was just about to go into the storeroom myself when... I heard a couple of shots go off. Two, I think. Almost at the same time. And there he was, right at my feet, lying face down on the floor. I was right next to the storeroom door, so I slammed it shut and locked it as quick as you like. Because you thought whoever had shot Mr. Winterbank might come for you. Yeah. So I went to grab the old cove's gun. I figured I'd put up a fight at least. But when I got a better look at him, I knew. Winterbank was a goner. I felt funny in my head all of a sudden. Kinda dizzy. And after that, I don't remember nothing. That must be when you passed out, Gina. If I hadn't done what I'd done, the old cove might still be alive. Did you tell the police everything you just told us? Of course I did. But they didn't believe a word of it, did they? All they said was, if I kept telling lies, I'd make things even worse for me. It'll be alright, Ginny. Don't worry. Just stay strong a little longer. Bruno is about to put the real culprit through the mill. That culprit was there in the afternoon. That Egger Benedict. I still remember how he looked at me, like I was nothing. He was there that night. We don't know his real name yet, but I'm convinced that he's involved somehow. Anyway, thank you for telling us what happened, Gina. I really appreciate your honesty. You what? You what? You can leave it all in Bruno's capable hands now, Ginny. Mr. Naruto, yes? How can you trust me? I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, have you forgotten what happened here before? I mean, come on, it was only 2 months ago. Only 2 months ago. Me and McGill did. We told you all pack of lies. And you got the bog trotter off, off with him, even though he was a killer. No, I could never forget that. Oh. I did what I thought was best at the time. But the pain of that error of judgment doesn't get any easier to bear. Still, don't forget that I also made you a promise. I told you that I'd be on your side to the bitter end no matter what. Well, what if I'm lying? You could be working to get another killer off the hook for all you know. I was once in your position, Gina. I was the accused in a trial. You were. Before I left Japan, I was accused of murder. And strange as it might sound, the circumstances of the crime were pretty damning. I was sure that no one would believe it wasn't me who'd done it. Oh, Bruno! But there was one person who stood up for me, who believed in me, and was prepared to defend me. My best friend. Ranosuke, no one believes in you more than I do. Leave this to me. All you need to do is put your faith in me, and I'll do the rest. I was so happy, I cried. But even then, somewhere inside me, I couldn't help thinking, surely he doesn't really believe in me. Not completely. But I was wrong. As soon as my trial began, it was obvious that he had an absolute unwavering belief in me. And in turn, I developed an absolute unwavering belief in him. Since then, I came to realize, if you want someone to believe in you, you have to believe in the other person first. What are you saying? I promise you, Gina, that no matter what happens, I'll keep believing in you. So you don't need to worry. I won't let you down. Even though I'm a diver, and a no-good liar. You're not like McGill did. I know that. Eh? That's right. Oh, that's right. You're our friend, Ginny. Iris, we know you better than you think. And we've come to the conclusion that you're someone we can trust. Yes. That's all. It's really all we need to know. Exactly. Mr. Naruto, Defendant Gina Lestrade and her legal representative. Court proceedings are about to resume. Please head into the courtroom immediately. Yes, of course. Thank you. I've been both a defendant and a defending lawyer in my time, so I knew only too well just how hard it was to put all your faith in another. And I also knew just how hard it was to bear the burden of another putting all their faith in you. This is it, at last. The final chapter, the final battle. Wish me luck, Susanoo-san, and I hope you're watching me over too. I hope you're watching over me too, partner. th of April, 1:41 p.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. I hereby call this court to order as we resume the trial of Miss Gina Lestrade. Lord Van Dix, have you successfully subpoenaed the witness? The subpoena was delivered to the communications station where the man works immediately, my lord. However, the heavy rain has delayed the arrival of his carriage, it would seem. I see. Let us turn our attention to Inspector Gregson's presses of the case heard by the court this morning. The glaring omission of the third bulletin report is a serious blunder, Inspector. Yes, I can only apologize, my lord. And although the defense's chemical analysis of the blood at the scene makes for a compelling argument, I cannot permit such untried methods to be used as evidence in my courtroom. It's a big mistake to cross Hurley and me. A very big mistake. My lord! The subpoenaed witness has just arrived in the building. Thank you, officer. Show him to the stand without delay. Mr. Eggert Benedict. I didn't expect to cross paths with him again so soon. It's certainly not like this. Thank you for complying with the court subpoena at such short notice, sir. But of course, my lord. As an upstanding member of London society, it is my pleasure to oblige. Now, kindly state your name and occupation for the record. Ashley Graydon. Excuse me, sorry. Ashley Graydon. Communications Officer. Mr. Graydon and I both work at London Central Communications Station. Now, perhaps somebody would kindly explain what all this is about. You were apprised by the situation by the court officer on your way here, I presume. Yes, I was. Something to do with a murder that took place at a pawnbroker's on Baker Street. And some nonsense about me having been there on the night in question. That is the accusation indeed. This really is beyond a joke, you know. Very well. Without further delay, the court will hear your testimony now, Mr. Graydon. You will respond to the accusation made against you under oath. Gladly, my lord. Gladly. The accusation. Naturally, I have occasion to make use of pawnbroking services from time to time. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation, even if certain parties here present claim that my blood was found at the scene. Some Scaramouche detective's homebrewed tincture can hardly be taken as serious evidence. So, you deny the accusation completely, do you? I must say, I am dismayed. For the highest court in the land to be swayed by this self-professed detective's toy. It was the will of the jury, and our great British justice system demands that the jury's will is upheld. And it would seem we have the misfortune of a most inept assembly of jurors today. By golly! How long am I expected to be detained here? If, following the defense's cross-examination, your involvement in this matter has not been established, you will be free to leave immediately. and I shall be away in time for afternoon tea. Some small consolation at least. Let us not hold up Mr. Grayman any longer than necessary, counsel. Proceed with the cross-examination. So, we'll meet again, Mr. Benedict? Or is it Mr. Graydon? My apologies. You are... Ranosuke Naruhodo, defense lawyer. We have met. If you say so. Ashley Graydon. Enchanté. So... I trust we can conclude this quickly. Ugh, but I am not holding your flashy hat while we do.
Hold it!
Yes, we even met in the very pawnbrokery where the crime took place on the afternoon of the day in question. Though, of course, you introduced yourself by a different name at the time. It was Mr. Benedict, I believe. Tell me, what made you... The witness is here to testify about events that took place that night. He is under no obligation to answer such unrelated questions. You can't be serious. Thank you. Because I certainly do not feel inclined to answer such an inappropriate question. So he's going to be evasive, is he? In an effort not to give anything away. This could be tricky.
Hold it!
Have you seen these two men before? This pair? No. I don't associate with... This is a farce. Whose idea was it to permit an outsider to work in a British court anyway? Well, needless to say...
Hold it!
Where were you at around 1 in the morning on the night in question, sir? That is past the hour at which I would make galleons. You're able to prove that?
Objection!
Listen carefully, my learned nippy. But I am not the only human to have blood running through my veins, am I? How can you be sure that the blood is mine? It could equally be the blood of one of these two miscreants. Every individual's blood is a slightly different composition, it seems. Mr. Sholmes' chemical is able to differentiate it. Spare me the science lesson. Who's this Sholmes character anyway? Oh, I assumed all Londoners would know the name. He's a renowned detective. So, even you are unable to bring yourself to say great detective. Great detective, you say? Now in the realm of fairy tales, are we?
Excuse me!
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Skulkin?
What, me?
No, the Mr. Skulkin next to you.
Right, I've had it up to here with this.
How many times have I got to tell you? Yes, I know, you're not Big Bruv Sulky. Mr. Nash Skulkin. Mr. Nash Skulkin.
Go by me, Governor, you what?
Is it not the case that when Mr. Graydon just spoke, a thought went through your mind? Would you care to share that thought with the court?
Me thoughts? I don't have none of them. Must have been him. You what?
Mr. Nash Skulkin, answer the question, please. What went through your mind when Mr. Graydon just spoke?
Nothing. Honestly, nothing. I was just thinking, if he waves his arm like that around there, like much more, if he waves his arm around there, like that much more, it'll open up the wound again. Is all.
What wound?
Well, he took the bullet, of course. It was only 2 days ago. It ain't gonna be healed up yet. So I was, well, you know, I was worried for him, and oh, those bills. Mr. Graydon, do you hear that?
What?
Your comrade is worried about you, it seems. On account of your injured arm.
My lord.
Yes, Mr. Graydon.
I have no idea what these two wretches are talking about. Certainly, I shouldn't be expected to answer anything in relation to their mindless insinuations.
We know that someone other than the victim was hit by a bullet at the scene of the crime 2 nights ago. And from the height of the bullet hole in the wall, that person was likely hit in the upper arm or thereabouts. Perhaps you'd allow a court official to examine your arm, sir. The left arm that you're currently clasping with your right hand, as if in pain.
No, I refuse. You have shown no evidence whatsoever that links me to these common thieves. Accordingly, I am not obliged to permit any such invasion of my privacy. As I've already said, I'm completely uninvolved in all of this. I've never had anything to do with the pawnbrokery, where this fellow was killed, whatsoever. I take offense at the insinuation that I was in any way involved.
You claim to have had nothing whatsoever to do with Mr. Windibake's pawnbrokery?
My lord, the defense would like that last statement to be added to Mr. Graydon's formal testimony.
Very well, counsel. Continue with your testimony, Mr. Graydon.
Bottom line is, I've never had anything to do with the pawnbroking establishment where the man was killed. Whoops, no, actually, man. This one. There we go.
Hold it!
Never had anything to do with it. You forget that I was there, Mr. Graydon, on the very afternoon of the incident. Obviously, I'm not a complete stranger to the pawnbrokers. I'm currently on the lookout for an armchair to furnish my study.
Protection.
No, you were there to redeem an article. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Excuse me.
You have something to add, Inspector?
Come again, Sunshine.
Oh, you were there too, in fact, weren't you, Inspector? That afternoon.
Well, yes, I do remember meeting yourself at the pawnbrokers that afternoon. Your young Japanese assistant, and the accused were all present, as I recall.
And at that time, this witness, Mr. Graydon, was trying to acquire a particular article.
Well now, I'm afraid I don't remember too clearly.
What? But you must.
I'm not going to lie and pretend I remember something that I don't.
What's going on here? Greggsy showed us a picture before, didn't he? You know, for the cameras that Early installed in Windibanks. Yes, of course.
Indeed. And the gentleman pictured bears a striking resemblance to the witness, I must say.
Exactly, which proves that Mr. Graydon was in the shop on the afternoon in question. At no point have I denied that fact. I merely entered the shop to peruse the articles on sale and have a word with the broker. Nothing more. This makes no sense. I understand why Mr. Graydon might be trying to cover his tracks. But why would Gregson be trying to avoid giving testimony about what happened? That's all he's going to say on the matter, is it? What do you think, Bruno? I think he has no intention of telling us anything. He's well aware that the less he says, the less chance he has of giving himself away. The complete opposite of Hurley, then. He seems to think that the more he says, the better. Well, at least I managed to prise a little more information from these witnesses' lips. All thanks to the Skulkin brothers. Yes, they were the key to it after all. So he says he had nothing to do with Windibanks. Well, we know that's not true. Perhaps now would be a good time to have a proper look through the court record. Good idea. You never know what tiny scrap of information could become a valuable weapon. Alright, let's take a look. What do we have here?
Objection!
Okay, there we go. Have you ever seen this disc before, Mr. Graydon? Why? Is it supposed to mean something? This disc was, until the day of his murder, in pawn in Mr. Windibank's shop. It was redeemed by the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, that afternoon. However, somebody mysteriously appeared to try to take it from her. And that somebody was you, of course. Wasn't it, Mr. Graydon? As I have reiterated numerous times now, you are mistaken. That was not me. I have never seen that disc before in my life. It may have escaped your notice, but there is a small smear of blood on the disc. Ah, yes, resulting from an abrasion of the thumb, perhaps. That's right. The surface of the disc is covered in hundreds of tiny metal bumps. In the skirmish to acquire the disc, the thumb of the person who tried to take it suffered minor lacerations. So, while the disc bears the remnants of that skirmish in the form of this smear of blood, the thumb of the person in question must bear the remnants also, in the form of a scratch. Good gracious, indeed it must! Mr. Graydon, you refused to allow a court officer to examine your arm before. Are you now going to refuse to allow us to examine your thumb? Because I have no doubt that it bears a small scratch consistent with the smear of blood on this disc. Well, well. It would seem I underestimated you. What? What is the meaning of this? So, you admit it now. Hey, sir! Good to see ya! Your sick week off is doing wonders for getting your streams. Well, it's awesome to have you here. It's always great to see ya. You admit you have a scratch on your thumb from when you attempted to take the disc from the defendant. Order! Order! Well, Mr. Graydon. It would appear there has been something of a misunderstanding here. I did not attempt to take the disc, as you put it. No, quite the reverse. What are you trying to say? It's really quite simple, you see. The disc was mine from the outset. Is there some crime in taking an item that you own out of pawn? What? It would seem, Mr. Graydon, that in this piece of evidence, my learned friend has established a link between yourself and the incident. Accordingly, you will tell the court everything you know about this disc now. As you wish. Though I'm quite sure it has nothing whatsoever to do with the pawnbroker's murder. There's a note on the disc saying "For McGilded," but the item belongs to me. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling, on the day in question. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night.
Did I hear you correctly, sir? McGilded, you say? The famous London philanthropist? Who perished in this very courtroom 2 months ago after being acquitted of a distinctly messy murder?
Yes, my lord. The one and the same.
Good lord, Mr. Graydon, are you saying that Mr. McGilded and yourself were acquainted?
Yes, that's correct.
Order! Well, I certainly didn't expect to hear that name uttered here in my courtroom again.
According to what Gina told us, this disc was placed in pawn on that fateful night 2 months ago. McGildet himself gave instructions to deposit it at Windibanks. It's funny that Mr. Graydon here has claimed the disc belongs to him, then isn't it?
In all likelihood, he's lying.
So he appeared that afternoon at Windibanks in order to get his hands on McGillet's disc for some reason.
Counsel, you will commence your cross-examination, please.
Hold it!
Would you care to explain how this belongs to you?
As you will observe, a communications officer such as myself commands a fine salary. You are certainly exquisitely dressed, sir.
So, you see, I have little need to make use of the services provided by the pawnbrokery trade. However, I did once find myself in difficulties, having misplaced my purse whilst on an errand, which is why I pawned my fine black overcoat to the broker in question.
You claim that was your overcoat?
Obviously, and in my haste, I clean forgot that the music box disc was in his pocket. And yet, there is a note on it that reads, "For McGildet." I am a collector of rare and unusual music box music. I first met Mr. McGildet at a gentleman's club in the city, and was interested to discover that he shared my penchant in that area.
So, the disc in question...
It's a pre-production sample. I promised to let Mr. McGildet hear it. But then you forgot that it was in the pocket of the overcoat you were forced to pawn. Yes, exactly. Gina didn't mention any of that in her testimony 2 months ago, did she?
No, because McGildet had threatened her to keep her mouth shut. Which means that if we dig too deeply here, it's going to expose Gina's perjury.
Oh dear, this is complicated, isn't it? Let's leave it alone for the time being.
Hold it!
So, you're saying that Miss Lestrade lifted the ticket from your pocket or bag?
That's right. Despite being mindful of danger when walking in the insalubrious areas I kind frequent.
Miss Lestrade did no such thing.
Well, of course you would take that stance, but the girl is a regular offender.
You came to the pawnbrokery that day prepared with all the information you needed to identify the defendant. You were looking for her. That's what brought you to Windibanks. To get your hands on McGillet's disc.
Objection!
My learned friend is a veritable font of nonsense.
Nonsense? The lead artist for this game is so good at design. They're also detailed and different. Yeah! No. There's a lot of great designs in this game. I could go with the prosecution. Counsel, you will refrain from conjecturing in this way. Is that clear? Yes, my lord.
Then I will continue with my testimony for what possible use it can be.
It feels so off to have an Ace Attorney game that actually takes perjury seriously and has a jury. Like, it feels weird to have a court in an Ace Attorney game that has something in common with actual court.
Hold it!
Had you ever been to Windibanks before? Only once for the purposes of pawning something, but like many, I enjoy browsing in such establishments. So when you noticed that the pickpocket had taken your ticket, you chased after her, is that correct? Yes, that's right. I didn't notice it first, of course.
Oh yeah, right. We need Maya to channel this judge so someone will care about perjury. Yeah, no. It's quite funny. It feels weird. It feels weird. And it's like, what's really funny, of course, is that, you know, this court is, you know, like a really, really long time before the court of the mainline Ace Attorney games. So, at some point in the entire history of the world of Ace Attorney, they just decided that they weren't gonna care about perjury anymore, and they also wouldn't have a jury. They'd also be more tolerant of fake evidence. They just decided, let's just make the whole court system worse, basically. However, I suppose I look at America and I'm like, okay, I could actually buy that. Although I will say that they have not yet, in this court, figured out how to pick unbiased jury members. They have not figured that out yet. Because the jury members are, like, so biased in every case. Yes, that's right. I didn't notice it first, of course. Such is the art of the pick purse. But when I did, I headed to the pawnbrokery at once, in order to reclaim my coat before the thief could. I was merely trying to recover what was rightfully mine in the first place. He can say what he likes because he knows we have no evidence to contradict him on this.
Hold it!
Yes, it was taken by Inspector Gregson here, wasn't it? That's right. This was the very man. Apparently the police are collecting anything that has a connection to Mr. McGilder
Is that right?
as evidence.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Inspector?
What do you mean?
The last remark Mr. Graydon made in his testimony seemed to trouble you in some way.
No, it didn't. It's nothing. Leave it alone.
Let me ask you this, Inspector. Why is Scotland Yard gathering Mr. McGilden's possessions?
Oh, I can't tell you something like that, Sunshine.
What is it, Inspector? Investigative secrets?
Yes, exactly. You should know all about that.
Magnus McGilden, who died so unexpectedly after his trial 2 months ago. A man renowned through the capital for his great contributions to public life. Yet he had a dark side, too.
Where are you going with this, Van Zeeks?
I suppose the police are dealing with the aftermath of his nefarious activities, are they?
Oh, that's enough. Coppers like me have duties to carry out that we're not at liberty to talk about. That's all you need to know.
Duties conferred by Lord Strongheart, I presume? The Lord Chief Justice appears to have great faith in you, Inspector.
The bottom line is, if you want to get more out of me, you're gonna need Lord Strongheart's pop and fast.
What's all this about? It's like there's something going on between Gregson and Lord Van Zeeks here.
Well, it would appear that the Inspector has revealed all he is at liberty to reveal. Mr. Graydon, let us return to your testimony.
Gladly, my lord.
Hold it!
But perhaps you'd seen something of value among the forfeited items?
No, not at all.
Oh.
The valuer was brought in by the police to assess everything in the shop. Without exception, every article on the shelves was common or garden bric-a-brac.
In that case, it's clear that you broke into the shop later that day in order to recover Mr. McGilden's disc.
Have you not been listening, man? Even if I had wanted to recover the disc, you may recall that it had been seized by the police that afternoon. It was no more in the shop that night than I. As I keep saying, I simply had no reason to break in.
Ooh. Actually, so England forced their king to come up with juries to come up with juries with the Magna Carta so the people could unionize against the crown, but Japan only tried them out in 1923 because of learning from England exactly like this game's talking about. But they got rid of juries in 1943 and went back to judge and prosecutor versus the defense until 2009, 2 years after Apollo Justice Ace Attorney came out. Like, actually in real history, that's how it worked? So this is actually, like, somewhat realistic? Because if so, that is definitely interesting, to be sure. Wow. That's really interesting, actually. So of course, after Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, they didn't keep the jury aspect. But that is interesting. That's very interesting. And of course, you know, in a lot of the mainline games, right, they don't keep them in Japan, even though they're technically taking place in Japan, right? They, you know, right, we call it Japanifornia, right, because, you know, but, yeah, so that's very interesting, and it does explain a lot, actually. That's very interesting. Thank you, Sarah. So there was nothing of McGilda's left in the shop that night. Nothing this man might have been after. I wonder if that's really true. I don't know. If you have some evidence, then let him have it. I've been dying to see that irritatingly assured expression of his crumble. McGilda slipped a disc into his coat pocket and had it deposited at Windibank's. Then, when he realized he was going to be arrested on suspicion of the Omnibus murder, he threatened Gina and forced her to take the redemption ticket. There's no doubt about it, that witness is lying through his pearly white teeth. The police were obviously after anything left behind by McGilda as well. That's why Inspector Gregson ended up taking the disc into custody that day. But Gregsy is being very strange about all this. There must be a reason for that, I'm sure. I just don't know what it is. For now, I need to focus on exposing the fact that Mr. Graydon is lying in his testimony. Huh! Localizations put the game wherever the localizers are. In the French version, Phoenix lives in Paris, and Paris suffers earthquakes now. Very interesting. Apparently, one of the reasons that the localization of The Great Ace Attorney took so long was essentially finding a way to maintain the representation of the different cultures in The Great Ace Attorney while still localizing it. Apparently, it was just very, very difficult to maintain everything. You know, and make sure nothing gets lost in you know, because there's the Japanese influence, there's the English, there's whatever, like there's so many different things to consider that making sure that they all worked in the localization was very difficult, and that's part of why it took so long.
see. Perhaps he ran out of paper, so he had to use anything at hand. It's hard to know what the front and what's the reverse side now. Let's see, hold on. Okay, so this doesn't say who deposited it. So we can't prove that. Ah, here we go. There was still one small box that was also just deposited.
Objection!
This disc was deposited at Windibank's on Magnus McGilded's instructions. You knew that, and you went there with the intention of obtaining it for yourself.
Objection!
Conjecture again. In any case, the disc was taken into custody by the police that afternoon. The witness had no reason to visit the pawnbrokery again that night.
Objection!
Sorry, my learned friend, but that's not true. What? Mr. McGilded had another article in pawn at Windibank's, as this second pawnbroker's ticket proves. Ah! There were 2 articles belonging to Mr. McGilded in Windibank's pawnbrokery, and the reason you broke into the shop that night was to recover the second one. Together with your 2 accomplices, the Skulkin brothers. Ah! This is the second ticket, is it? What had the man deposited? The article description reads, 1 small box. A rather vague description, it seems to be. Are you suggesting that I broke into the pawnbrokery with these clowns in order to steal some trinket box? I believe there are adequate grounds to suspect that you did. This is absurd. Why on earth would I do such a thing? Once the article had been forfeited, I could simply walk into the shop and purchase it. There would be absolutely no need for me to resort to theft. That's a good point. Indeed. The witness makes a solid argument. So that means that for some reason, this Graydon fellow needed the small box that very night, does it?
Objection!
It's time to put an end to this nonsense, my lord. Could you be a little less cryptic, Lord Van Zeeks? I do hate to ruin my learned friend's argument, but the truth is quite incontrovertible. On the night in question, no small box was taken from Windibank's pawnbrokery. And rest assured, the prosecution can prove it. What? Good gracious! Inspector, show the photographic prints to the court, if you please.
Yes, sir.
What prints?
These prints were taken from one of the detective's security cameras.
Ah, Hurley's red-handed recorders again.
As previously explained, using this plan of the shop layout,
the victim's establishment was furnished with automatic cameras in 2 locations. One was set to capture the counter where Mr. Windibank received his customers, and the other was set to capture the shelves on which articles were placed for sale once forfeited.
According to the information on this ticket, Miss McGilded's small box had been forfeited already, 2 days before the incident, at 9 PM on 13th of April to be precise, which means it would have been on the shelf of the forfeited items in the shop front. Now, what I have here is a print taken by one of the cameras about 2 hours before the incident. That's at 11 PM on 15th of April.
The victim certainly had a very full shop, it would appear.
And here we have another print. This one was taken about 2 hours after the incident.
I see. So we have two pictures to compare. I must say that placing them side by side leaves me cold. Dear me, that's starting to make my head ache.
Obviously, at Scotland Yard, we consider theft as one possible motive in this case. We explore the possibility that something had been taken in addition to the victim's life.
So you men have already compared these two prints thoroughly, Inspector.
Yes, sir.
Well, I bet he hasn't looked at it stereoscopically.
We captured every single item in each of these two photographic prints. And the odd conclusion is that exactly the same number are present in both.
In other words, nothing was taken from the pawnbrokery of the night in question. And my learned friend's assertion is nothing more than a hopeful fantasy. I don't believe it. If I could just have shown that he'd stolen McGilden's pawn box, I might have been able to break him down at last. You know what, Bruno? I've been thinking. I wonder if these two photographs really are exactly the same. What? So, Counsel, in the light of the evidence put forward by the prosecution, what is your position? It seems that in fact on the night in question, nothing was stolen from the victim's establishment. Do you accept the prosecution's assertion? I don't know. Could there be some hidden discrepancy in these two photographic prints somewhere? Use a piece of evidence. Before I give my answer, my lord, I'd like to try something if I may.
Try something? What do you mean, Counsel?
I'll need to use a certain piece of evidence from the court record to identify the discrepancy.
I'm not entirely sure I follow. Which piece of evidence do you intend to use to help you identify a discrepancy between the two prints?
Take that!
I'd like to use this device, my lord, to view the two prints stereoscopically.
Oh! Yes! You've got the bug at last! You can't resist it, can you? You've got the cross-eyed compulsion!
Juror number 3, what a surprise. Come on, Reno! Let's put the pictures in place and see what this wonderful contraption shows us. There we go. Now, look through the eyepiece. Ba-doom! I wasn't sure at first, but there is a clear discrepancy between these two prints.
What? What? You must identify the location in question for the court, Counsel. Indicate the precise location of the discrepancy in which you speak.
Ba-doom.
Take that!
Granted, these two prints are almost identical. However, there is one minor discrepancy between them.
What?
When you view the two pictures stereoscopically, a single area stands out as being different. The location of this small box.
Let me... wait. Unbelievable.
By Jove, you're right. How extraordinary. All these characters look so unnerving with their eyes crossed. I hate it. I hate it so much. Alright, let's see. What this tells us is very simple. Mr. McGilden's small box was indeed not stolen from Windibanks on the night in question. Plot twist, Van Zieks literally cannot see the discrepancy, but he's pretending he can. That would be pretty funny. Like, he's so pretentious and arrogant, he just can't possibly admit, like, wait a second, everyone else is agreeing that there's a discrepancy. I can't see it, but I can't, I feel too much pressure to be right, that I can't disagree with them. Or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, Mr. McGildered's small box was indeed not stolen from Windibanks on the night in question. However, there can be no doubt that somebody picked up this particular box and then returned it to its place on the shelves. Are you suggesting that the small box originally deposited by Mr. McGilded is in fact, yes, the very same small box I just identified in those photographic prints? Mindless guesswork. What if it was? So box was moved on the shelf. Nothing was stolen, which means quite simply that nothing has changed. That may be true, but alright, McGilded's box wasn't stolen then. But doesn't the fact that it was moved like that change things? It changes everything. I believe this changes everything about the case. How can that possibly be? The crucial point is the fact that what was moved was a small box. In other words, we have to consider what might have been inside that box. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that we need to examine that box as soon as possible. A vital piece of evidence is sitting on the shelves at Windibanks as we speak. That won't be necessary. Some little box belonging to a man who died 2 months ago can't possibly be relevant to this trial. The court does not uphold your objection, Lord Zanziks. Bailiff, arrange for an officer to go to Baker Street at once. Obtain the small box in question and bring it back here for further examination. We should have a report within half an hour. I think perhaps we should recess for a short while until the evidence is brought forth. To be hoodwinked by such a farce. Disappointing. I beg your pardon, Lord Van Zieks. This is nothing but a smokescreen. A Nippany specialty, it would seem. What are you trying to say? He's trying to say he's racist. Like, really racist. Welcome to England. We have rain and racism. And fog. But mostly racism. My learned friend has persisted with the same line of reasoning from the very beginning. That this witness's intent was to steal an article belonging to Mr. McGilded from the pawnbrokery. Yet common sense tells us that none of the articles have value enough to be worth stealing in the first place. Exactly. It would be beyond absurd to break into a place for the purpose of stealing such commonplace property. If your lordship recalls, Mr. McGilded perished 2 months ago, immediately after the conclusion of his trial. A trial in which he was found not guilty. A trial in which it was established that he was the upstanding member of society, his reputation implied, in fact. So I propose a toast to my learned friend and his most insightful defense. The articles of this upstanding member of society pawned were entirely ordinary. A black overcoat that just happened to have a music box disc in one of his pockets, and a small box.
I assure you, I wouldn't accept even if the man tried to make a gift of such things to me. Welcome to England. We have no spices in our food, but plenty of racism. Yep, pretty much. You can pause it, cash. That's okay. Seriously, like, it's honestly, like, it's weird. Because there has been so much overt racism from Lord Van Zieks and also, like, from the jurors and stuff in some past cases. And yet no one's actually called it out, and it feels weird. It feels weird that no one's like, dude, you're being racist. You're being, like, really racist here. The prosecution's argument is undeniably compelling. It is incumbent on the defense now to bolster its argument. Explain what possible significance these commonplace articles pawned by this fine citizen could have. Well, counsel, is your argument in fact demonstrable? Or demonstrable? Are you able to show proof that the disc or the box are in any way, in any tangible way related to this case? Well, what's the matter, Reno? We know that they're related, don't we? They're both vital pieces of evidence. Yes, of course, you and I both know that. We know Mr. McGillicud's true character, and we know the disc is significant even if we don't know why. I guess that's true. I don't know. I mean, Iris could say to Ryo, you know, like, she could say, like, hey, they're being racist. Like, are you okay? Like, are you okay with them speaking to you like you're, you know... I don't know. Like, just some acknowledgement of it. Some. You know? But there really just isn't. There are people being overtly racist, and there's just not an acknowledgement of it anywhere. Anyways, but if we explain all that to the court at this point, we'll have to acknowledge that McGillicud's acquittal 2 months ago was a mistake. That the defense's argument was flawed, based on false information. Oh no! And that would mean admitting that Gina committed perjury. But Ginny... Oh. Could it be that Van Zieks knows? Is that why he's doing this now? Because he anticipated everything? But, maybe. This could be a great opportunity for us. Sorry? What do you mean, Iris? Well, what is it that you always say, Bruno? Sooner or later, the truth comes out. Every time. Alright, the exact significance of the things that McGillicud deposited with Mr. Winterbank is something that only Gina can explain to the court. But if I put her on the stand to testify about that, it could critically damage our chances of winning this case. What's the right thing to do here? Look, obviously we're gonna have Gina testify. My lord, the defense would like to make a proposal. What proposal, counsel? While the court awaits the arrival of Mr. McGillicud's small box, I would like to call the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, to the witness stand. The defendant? To what end? It's to do with the various articles deposited at Winterbanks by Mr. McGillicud, my lord. Miss Lestrade has information relating to them. I believe it would be beneficial for the court to hear what she has to say. It will prove the significance of the articles in question once and for all. Well, well, things are becoming interesting. I presume you consider the implication of the testimony you're proposing, in particular the impact it will have on the accused's standing, and indeed
your own. I have. Lord Benedict, would you care to explain that last remark? The prosecution accepts the defense's proposal. I move to interrupt the cross-examination of the current witness and hear from the accused herself. Very well, if you have no objection. So, the court will now hear the testimony of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. Your witnesses are currently in the stand, may step down until further notice. Then I shall bid you good day. Wait. You, sir, shall remain in the stand while Miss Lestrade testifies. As you wish. Alright then, Gina, it's time. I know this will be hard, but please, put your faith in me here. Good luck, Bruno! The articles that Mr. McGilded had deposited in Windibank's pawnbrokery are intimately related with the omnibus case, the trial of which was heard in this courtroom 2 months ago. Yes, and I remember this young lady being brought before me in that trial as well. That's right, my lord. Her testimony helped to establish the innocence of the defendant, Mr. McGilded. The omnibus case was intriguing, to say the least. And now here we all are again. The same players in that trial, facing each other once more. A twist of fate, perhaps, my Nepalese friend. Allow me to recap the events of 2 months ago. An old brickmaker was stabbed to death in an omnibus running along London's winter streets. Apart from the victim, there was only one other person in the carriage, Mr. McGilded. Naturally, he was the prime suspect for the murder. But as the trial progressed, another possibility emerged. That the murder, in fact, took place above the defendant's head on the roof deck, with the body then being dropped through the skylight into the carriage below. It was Miss Lestrade whose testimony brought that possibility to light. At the time of the incident, Miss Lestrade was concealed under a seat in the carriage, hoping to pick the pockets of unsuspecting passengers. Then, immediately after the trial, having been acquitted of the murder, Mr. McGilded died in this very courtroom, in the most extraordinary of circumstances. A mystery that remained unsolved even now, 2 months on. As indeed does the omnibus murder itself. Be that as it may, I recall neither the disc nor the small box being mentioned in the course of those proceedings. Miss Lestrade, would you tell the court now, please, what really happened in the omnibus 2 months ago? I mean, I don't know what you mean. Hold on, just hold on a second. Kate. I don't know what you mean. I already said all of what I know. All I knew. All of what I know. And what about everything you told us yesterday from inside your prison cell? Please, Miss Lestrade. This is extremely important. But, remember, little girl, if it transpires that you willfully withheld information in a trial 2 months ago, the Home Office will seek to prosecute you for perjury. And naturally, you will lose all credibility as a witness. Although, let's face facts, you have little credibility to lose. Ginny, don't listen to him. Please, you have to trust Bruno now. Iris, we're on your side. Alright then. We'll talk. It's the right choice, Gina. Well, it would seem that my learned friend is hell-bent on bringing the entire courtroom down about his ears. So be it. I must confess that I'm struggling to understand what on earth is happening here. However, it would appear that Mr. McGilden's pawned articles and that extraordinary case of the omnibus are secrets of which we have been hitherto unaware. So, Miss Lestrade, you will now give your testimony before the court about the events of 2 months ago. You will reveal the truth, a commodity sorely lacking in your original statements. This is it then. Everything's going to come out. Like Van Zeke said, this could bring the whole courtroom down about my ears. But as a lawyer, I'm prepared to take that risk. Why isn't my Scottish accent better? I have to do so much of it now. Truth is, that Brickmaker Cove was in the cabin of the omnibus the whole time. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. All of a sudden, I heard a scream from over my head, and that pair on the roof deck went off to call the slops. That's when McGilden slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop roundabout. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one about what I'd seen or heard. Good grief, this is outrageous. What you just told the court bears almost no resemblance to our testimony 2 months ago. As you say, my lord. Then there's every chance I may have agitated an error in McGillen's trial. It sounds very much to me as if the man deliberately deceived this court in an effort to cover up the most wicked of schemes. Without doubt, your lordship is correct. A great injustice was done in this courtroom 2 months ago. The actions of the accused in that trial, of this witness, and of my learned friend here are entirely inexcusable. I don't believe it. The whole trial was a farce. It was all lies. That McGillen fellow was rotten to the core just like that pickpocket. Don't forget the lawyer from the east. They were all in on it together. You're wrong, the lot of you. Mr. Naruto, the lawyer there, he didn't know nothing about it. Humbug! I don't think so. Harry really expected to believe that. They really stitched everyone up, didn't he? What was an operation to get the man off scot-free? Wait, no, what was it? He really stitched everyone up, didn't he? Oh, what an operation to get the man off scot-free. Unforgivable. Stop! The lies have to stop! Stop! Yes, the defense made a terrible error of judgment. I intend to take full responsibility and suffer whatever consequences are deemed appropriate. However, it is imperative that the court allows the witness to elaborate on her testimony, because the true significance of McGillen's pawned articles must be brought to light. Very well, my learned student friend. Given the depths of the calamity you have just plunged yourself into, this may well be worth hearing. Words fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruto. Yes, my lord. I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial. Of course, my lord. Blimey, Mr. Naruto. Now, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. I really like Gina. I want to give her a hug, even if she'd hit me for it. She deserves a hug. And you were hiding in the cabin at the time as well, weren't you, Miss Lestrade? If I remember rightly, in the storage compartment underneath one of the seats. Yeah, that's right. It's pitch black under there, so you can't see nothing at all. Now, in your testimony 2 months ago, I feel certain that you claimed Mr. McGilden was the sole passenger, did you not? False testimony, my lord. That's what he told me I had to say. But it's important that you tell us the truth now. Yes, give Gina a hug and a warm cup of cocoa. Exactly. Exactly. But it's important that you tell us the truth now. Were Mr. McGilded and the victim acquaintances? I don't know. But I did hear them talking a lot. What were they talking about? Well, I couldn't hear too well. But if I had to say, I think it was about money or something. They kept talking about buying and not buying. About business dealings of some kind. Well, anyway, they got louder and louder. Started to sound like a proper fight. I was pretty scared by then. I hardly dared to breathe. And then, all of a sudden, I heard a noise, like someone keeling over on the floor. It was blooming loud and all. And I believe you let out an involuntary scream? Yeah. That's what gave me away.
Hold it!
Was the disc you saw this disc? Yeah, I reckon it probably was. It was right next to the cove lying on the floor. Would this disc have belonged to the victim, perhaps? I don't know. Gilded picked it up pretty smartish. And then he sat in the cove with a knife in his... And then he sat the cove with a knife in his belly up on the seat. What did he say to you at that time? He told me not to say a word about what I'd seen, or word to no one, about a disc and all. I was dead scared. The way he was looking at me, I thought, if I didn't go along with it, I'd get stuck with that knife too. And he started asking me a lot of questions, like what my name was and where I lived and that. He asked me about being a diver too. But after a while, what had happened in the carriage was noticed. Yeah, that's right. First there was a kind of rapping noise.
Hold it!
There were two gentlemen occupying the seats of the roof deck, I believe. That's alright. They must have looked down through the skylight and noticed the cove with a knife in his guts. Then they screamed and the driver pulled up the horses and McGilded got me out of sight. Out of sight? Where? Back under the seat where I sorted off. Once the carriage had come to an halt, the two coals from the roof ran off to fetch the slops. If they immediately left to fetch the police, it would appear they were entirely unrelated to the incident. So that left McGilded, the driver, and you still at the scene. Yeah. Only the driver didn't know I was there because I was under the seat. I had the cabin door open and a voice from outside. The driver, yes. He also testified at the trial, I believe. A fellow who went by the name of Beppo, if memory serves. What did McGilded and the driver say to each other? I don't know what happened, and stuff like that, mainly.
Hold it!
That pawn shop obviously being Windibanks on Baker Street. Just a moment, Counsel. Do you mean to tell me the driver gave false testimony in that trial as well? Perhaps the excursion to the pawnbrokery slipped his mind when he was in the stand. Indeed, Lord Van Zix. McGilded took off his coat and gave it to the driver. He folded it up all careful-like before handing it over. When I saw him do that, I remember thinking, that coat and what's in it has got to be worth a few bob. Yes, Gina was sure the disc must be worth more than what Mr. Windibank was suggesting, wasn't she? I remember quibbling with him over the price that afternoon at the pawnbrokery. The driver looked pretty happy when McGilded flashed some brass in his face. He went to run off like a lick. Then the bog trotter called to me and told me to come out from the drag's cabin.
Hold it!
Threatened you how exactly? Told me I'd only be able to start her if I did exactly what he said. Which included giving false testimony in court 2 months ago. Yeah, that's it. And there was one other thing he said.
Which was... He told me I'd have to hang on to the ticket from the pawn shop and make sure not to lose it. The ticket? Well, I never! Said that if he didn't show up to get the ticket off me before 2 months passed, I had to go to the pawn shop and pay the money to keep it in lug, to stop it from being forfeited. He left me with some brass to pay for it. But really? Why, that's what Mr. McGill would have done such a thing. Depositing his overcoat with a pawnbroker before the arrival of the police, it makes no sense at all. There would seem to be only one logical explanation, my lord. What McGill had the driver deposit at Windibanks was something he didn't want the police to see. Something very important that he needed to hide at all costs. Anyway, after that, he let me go. So I legged it before the coppers showed up. Well done, Gina. Can't have been easy to tell the truth like that. She's really put her faith in you, Reno. Yes, and to thank her, she'll have to face a charge of perjury once this trial's over. So I need to use the time we have now to get as much information out of her as possible. It's time to really go for it. Press her on every statement. I suppose I should. Oh, and another thing. What's that? Take a look at those two. Isn't it strange that they've been whispering to each other the entire time? Yes, that is strange. It looks like they're having a secret discussion about something. I'm not sure I'm completely comfortable with that. I wonder if there's anything I can do about it.
Hold it! Excuse me.
Is there something you'd like to share with the court, Inspector Gregson and Mr. Graydon? Inspector, Mr. Graydon.
Ah, blimey, you tried to give me a heart attack.
You have been whispering to each other for quite some time now. Tell us, what is the discussion about?
Discussion? With this fella? Pull the other on sunshine. You think I've got anything to talk about with this shady jet like this?
And I have nothing to say to this uncouth detective after he deprived me of that disc that was rightfully mine.
But they've clearly been talking the entire time I've been cross-examining Gina. It's as if they've been negotiating.
Thank you, Miss Lestrade. Thank you, counsel. I've heard enough. I believe we now have a reasonable understanding of what actually transpired on the omnibus.
Can you imagine how pissed the judge would be if two witnesses were whispering to each other in court? That is so funny. Yeah, it's just, you know. And like, this judge is a much better judge than the one in the mainline Ace Attorney games. Like, he's much better. But apparently there's still some blind spots, like not noticing that those two men were actively just having a discussion and, like, you know, just literally just talking to each other. You know, you have a wealthy man and you have a police guy, and they're all just, you know, talking to each other, like, you know, and it's just like maybe the judge should notice that. I feel like that may be a thing that he should be looking at.
It would appear on that night 2 months ago, a negotiation was taking place on the omnibus. Negotiation concerning this disc. However, matters did not run smoothly. When the parties involved began to quarrel over price, McGilded took what he wanted by force, at the expense of the other man's life.
Which proves my point. The disc is clearly extremely valuable in some way, although I don't understand why as yet. Hey, Deej! Welcome! We got another, like, half hour or so, I'm glad you made it.
And 2 days ago, precisely 2 months after the omnibus incident, the Gilded's coat and its contents were due to be forfeited. I didn't know what I should do with the ticket. I mean, the Cove died right after his trial. I knew that. So you decide you would try to claim the articles as your own. Well, why not, eh? They're only gonna be forfeited. Why shouldn't I have got them? Anyway, you can't blame me for thinking about it. Thinking ain't no crime. Miss Lestrade, what up here, Mr. McGillen, was prepared to kill in order to take possession of this disc. Do you know why that would be? Eh, I ain't got a clue. As I reckon it must be worth a fair bit of brass. He was probably gonna sell it. Yeah, no, her outfit is really awesome. Like, Sarah was just saying earlier tonight, like, the designs in this game are really good. They're really distinct, and they all make everyone feel like really their own character with their own, like, personality that comes through in their design. My lord! The evidence your lordship requested has been located and is ready for the court inspection, sir! Nuri? Nuri is so good. What am I missing? Who's Nuri? Oh yeah, the Sun Moon couple were great. Oh, Nuri is the concept artist. Got it. Or the designer. Got it. I hear you. I was not aware of their name. Thank you. Appreciate that. The evidence your lordship requested has been located and is ready for the court inspection, sir. Wait, so Ace Attorney 4, Ace Attorney Investigations. What's the third one there? And DGS. What's PL sorry, I'm sorry, I'm missing something. DGS is the Great Ace Attorney? Oh, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Why is DGS the Great Ace Attorney? Oh, that's why. Okay, thank you, Sarah. It's okay, Sarah. You know, whatever. It still comes through, and that's the important part. The mysterious little box deposited by McGilden 2 months ago. There's no doubt in my mind that it's a key piece in this far-reaching puzzle. To be continued. You bet, let's save. So, this is the article in question, is it? The small box deposited with the pawnbroker by Mr. McGilden 2 months ago.
And on the night of Mr. Winterbank's murder, the only item on the shelves that was touched by whoever broke into the shop.
Quick, quick! Let's open it and see what's inside.
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay. Good gracious, this is no ordinary box, it seems. Wow. Although in truth, I had an inkling that might be the case. Yes, Iris is very cute. She's very adorable. It would appear that the box houses a miniature music box movement. Is it too much to expect? I think it would be reasonable to assume that it is a device for the playback of this disc, my lord. So, here we have the means to play back Mr. McGilden's disc deposited at Winterbank's at much the same time. Not strictly correct, my lord. It was not McGilden's disc. It was the disc of his victim in the omnibus. But why, for heaven's sake? Are we to understand that the brickmaker was trying to sell his music box disc to McGilden? I believe the answer will become clear if we listen to the music on the disc, my lord. Yes, very well. Let the court now listen to this curious disc at last.
Hold it!
Wait, my lord.
Good grief. What is the meaning of this, Inspector?
The music box and the disc are, well, they're unrelated to the case. No need to spoil the somber atmosphere of the courtroom with some silly bit of music.
This disc may very well have motivated the culprit in this case to commit murder. Clearly, there's every chance that it's fundamentally important to understanding what happened. Prosecution has no objection.
But no, that piece of evidence is police property. You can't.
Clearly, Scotland Yard has a vested interest here, but it is policy of this prosecutor to leave no avenues unexplored. And you, Inspector, have no jurisdiction here to prevent that from happening. Yes, Ryanosuke is very intense. He's very intense. Ah! No further delays, please. Play the disc. What on earth? That's certainly not what I would call music. No. It's just the same note playing over and over again in a regular sequence. It's Morse code. Mr. Graydon? This really is priceless. After all that, the music box is broken. Broken? It can't be, can it? Well, obviously. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the officers said to fetch it didn't drop it on the way back to the courtroom. Well, with much regret. Yeah, I feel the court must accept that this music box offers literally the way of clues. Are you ready to move on, counsel? Come on. Yes, alright. It does sound as though it's completely broken. Just take the damn sticker off, God. It's very true. Yes, alright. It does sound as though it's completely broken, but is it? Could this music emanating from the music box possibly be a new clue? Yeah, of course it could be a clue. I believe that it could be relevant, my lord. Good lord, but how can it be? It's an abomination, counsel. Bad noise. I fail to see how it could have any meaning whatsoever. It does sound strange, I agree. There's one thing bothering me. While Graydon stands there chortling victoriously, the inspector beside him has a rather telling expression on his face. It's as if Gregson recognizes the sound, as if he's familiar with it somehow. and that's making him appear extremely on edge. If that's the stance of the defense, my Nipponese friend, answer me this. Oh, just what relevance do you propose this woeful chiming has on this case? So we have this woman on the jury who does this, you know, this radio thing, right? Wow, yeah, I think it's supposed to be Morse code. It's not supposed to be music. Just because this is a music box, it doesn't necessarily mean the sounds we're hearing are music. Look at that. The smile vanished from Graydon's lips as soon as I said it. I'm on the right lines here. I must be. I'm making deductions based on how people react to what you say. You're acting just like Hurley, Bruno.
Objection!
Hopefully finding slightly more on-target results than Hurley. The sounds we're hearing aren't necessarily music. Well, now that you've told us what they are not. I'm sure the court would like to hear what they are. Do enlighten us, my Nipponese friend. Hurley is a fucking disaster, and I love him. Yep, pretty much. Well, surely you have an idea in mind, because if not, it will be the death of your ill-formed argument. Argument? Exactly. The music box is clearly broken. Refusing to accept that fact is pure foolishness. Barock? You mean Baron? You mean Van Zeeks, right? You mean Baron Van Zeeks? Is it Barock or Baron? Whatever, Van Zeeks, right? They've got me. I don't know what the answer is yet.
Bruno? I've just examined the music box very thoroughly. And I'm fairly certain that it's not broken at all.
No, his first name is Barock. He's just a lord. Oh. Okay. Sorry. I didn't... They keep referring to him as Van Zeeks, and then he's also called... So, okay. Got it. Okay. Okay. Like, I don't think they've called him Barock, like, almost ever, except when they're saying his full name. So I guess I just didn't, like, I just sort of thought, oh, it's Baron, but it's not. It's the worst name choice ever. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. I also just don't like his name, so I didn't want to remember the whole thing. I just remember the stupid part I can't spell. Fair enough. Lord. I love you so much. Yeah, no, Iris is great. Iris is really great. And I love the fact that, like, she can do the whole great deduction thing and actually get the correct answers. Like, I love that. It's such a fun detail. Well, I am reminded of the fucking story where they named a Prince Duke. I, don't know what you're referring to, Deej.
And I'm fairly certain that it's not broken at all.
Really?
Really? Oh, the way it's been made, it can only produce a single note anyway.
Thank you, Iris. Ah, dang it. I just realized I forgot to change the timer again. Look, if you go to my YouTube channel, you can find the Great Ace Attorney streams. They are not at the one that it has there. Anyways, the point is, I didn't change the timer, and it's way too late now. But, yeah. Alright, well, if the music box isn't broken, it must mean that the sounds it's producing have some significance that isn't musical. Ah!
Could it be? Is that what these sounds are? Something's just struck me, Bruno. I feel like recently, in the past few hours even, I've heard another sound very much like the one this music box makes.
Yes, it's a familiar sound. Actually, Iris, I was just thinking exactly the same thing. I'm going to press the defense for an answer. Plot twist, it is music, they just have terrible taste in music. That's possible. Also, the music could be terrible. You know? There's many ways that this could, in fact, be music. If your assertion is that the sound produced by this music box is not, in fact, music at all, then what the devil is it, Council? Judge Beard's so soft. Yeah, no kidding. All the evidence we've seen so far, all the testimony we've heard, it's all pointing to one single answer now. The prosecution demands that my learned Nipponese friend presents proof now. Tangible proof of this latest wild speculation. Alright then. This could be the best chance I'm going to get to fight back in this trial. And if I'm right, it's going to join all the dots together. The evidence that explains the true nature of the sounds on this music box is... Let's save first. Okay, let's see. Nope, that's not it. Oh, wait, oh. D. See. What can I use to prove what it is? What can I use to prove what it is, guys? Huh. kind of the one thing we haven't used is this. Let's give it a shot.
Take that!
Okay, yeah, I didn't think so. Hold on. You're rather optimistic with that leading, obviously that. If I'm honest, as I thumped my hands down just now, I had an inkling that it was going to hurt me more than the bench.
Well, at least one of your inklings was correct, friend.
Okay, yeah, let's...
The rhythmic tinging sound the music box makes is definitely familiar somehow. It's almost like some sort of code. The question is how to show that the tinging sound has a connection to this case. Perhaps I should take a good look through all the evidence in the court record again. I'm going to have a good look through the court record again too, I think.
Okay. Alright. So, we have Pawnbroker's ticket. We have Gina's representation papers. We have blood samples. We have Iris' story manuscript. We just used that one. That one's not it. We have another pawnbroker's ticket. This one was for, I believe, the coat. The other one was for the box. We have McGilded case notes. We have today's paper. It's about secret communications between... Oh! I think this is it.
Take that!
Today's paper, Council. The headline is Pawnbroker perishes in pick-purse plunder. Hardly supportive of your cause.
No, my lord. I was hoping you'd look a little further down the page.
Further down, Ministry Mole classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice. Yes, this is a very serious matter being investigated at the highest level, I understand.
I have heard that international transmissions along supposedly secure lines are somehow being intercepted and leaked to various other countries.
And presumably those transmissions are in the form of wired telegrams?
Of course.
Juror number 5, your input, please. I knew it. Stop. Oh, me, sir. Whatever is the matter? You told the court before that you worked at the same communication station as Mr. Graydon, did you not?
Yes, that's correct.
And that in the particular station where you work deals with government communications and newspaper reports.
Oh, yes. We're not your run-of-the-mill communication station at all. Our work is extremely important.
Then tell me, is this not a very familiar sound?
You don't mean to say, is it?
That's right, madam. It bears more than a passing resemblance to the sound made by your telegraph machine as you tap it.
I believe it's called Morse code. But I don't believe it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to leaking telegrams from government departments, there could be nobody more perfectly placed than a highly skilled communications officer.
Are you suggesting that the music box disc contains stolen government secrets in Morse code?
Order, please, everyone, order. This is high treason, Council, deserving of capital punishment.
Too much, no vocabulary. What is this treason? What is capital punishment?
Why do we keep having to accuse the jury? Because the jury is completely biased and also can make their decision long before the case is actually over. They get to decide when the case is over, when their own biased ideas of the case cause them to believe someone is guilty or not guilty. Yeah, pretty much, Deej. Have we met Tiny Mouse yet? What do you mean? Tiny Mouse. What do you mean? Sort of words I half expect you to know. Sovereign government's confidential information, hostile nations would surely pay almost any price. Yes, and on that night 2 months ago, there is a mouse. If we haven't met it yet, then we have. I don't think I've met a mouse yet. I don't think I've met a mouse yet. No, sadly, the mouse does not get to speak or squeak. That was the very negotiation that was taking place inside the omnibus. Oh! Gotcha. Yes, we may have seen it a few times, last week. Or, not last week, sorry, because last week I had a whole host of technical issues. But the week before. But in the end, McGilded perished and the all-important disc lay unclaimed in the pawnbrokery. I don't know why I keep saying pawnbrokery. It's not pawnbrokery. It's pawnbrokery. My word! In which case, whoever stole that information in the first place must surely have been beside himself with worry. Because if the disc were to be discovered before it found its way out of the country, it would reveal an act of high treason, punishable by death. A pawnbrokery would be a seafood place. Yeah. So the culprit had no choice but to retrieve it, and in order to do that, he would have to gain entry to the pawnbrokery illegally in the middle of the night. Because the article left behind by Mr. McGilded would incriminate him too much if it got into the wrong hands. Isn't that right, Mr. Grady? I am gonna wrap up there for tonight. I gotta go have dinner, and my parents are leaving tomorrow, so I need to make sure everything is planned and everything like that. So I gotta do that. But, I might raid someone for you. Yeah, no, have a lovely night, and I will see you guys soon. There will be a lot more Monkey Island streams coming up soon. So keep your eye out for that.